Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is reality.
What is up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I am your host, Coach Willie Blake. I am here with also my co-host, Mr. Ian Sturmer, as well as the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. John Kovacs Jr. And today we are continuing in the book Profit First by Mike Michalowitz. I got it right. Mike Michalowitz. And the last couple times we've talked about the profit formula. We've talked about the generalness of the principles that are talked in the book. But today we're going to jump into the topic, and probably several topics, as we start out with the ability to, when you have something large in front of you, we tend to want to fill it. And when we shrink it down, we're able to adapt to it. What do I mean by that? That's what we're doing in this episode when we talk. So let's jump right into it. I know for myself, I'll start out with what Mike talks about is when it comes to profit first. He says, take at least 1%, put it in your profit bank account. And so if you get $1,000, he says, put 1%, which is $10 into the profit account. Because think about it, $1,000 versus $990. In both instances, if you're used to spending $1,000, I can bet that if you go out and try to save that $10 and just do expenses of $990, you'd still come to that same amount. Expenses will be covered, plus you'd have the $10 in the profit account. I like to think about it, because I'm on this huge health thing right now, of when you're at a buffet or at a family reunion. If you have a small plate, you'll fill up the small plate with whatever amount, and you're good. If you have a bigger plate, you're going to fill it up to the mountain that it can be and eat all of that. So if it's whatever's put in front of you that you are able to deal with and do, wouldn't it be better, if for my instance, for me being healthy, if I chose the small plate over the big plate? Wouldn't it be better to put $10 into profit and then be able to do the rest of the expenses? Who knows? Well, I know. And that's the right way to do it. So I'm just going on right now. John, Ian, I want to hear from you as we jump into this discussion about just profit and everything goes with it.
I love it. Less is definitely more in this case. And you just made me think about my Thanksgiving dinners. And I thought, maybe I should go with the baby plate so I don't eat as much and feel really sick afterwards, I think that's awesome. Truly, when you divide your money up, especially when you give it a role, and that's something I love about Mike Michalowitz, and also just, there are other financial teachers out there that share this particular methodology, in that when you take your profits, right, then you put them in places, you give them purpose and you give them direction. Now you have less money to work with spending wise that you would typically already use when money just drops into your accounts, right? So the other day, I had someone pay me an installment as part of my MC services. And what I did with that money is I realized, okay, I've got some things coming up, but I've first got to pay myself at least 10% to cover taxes. And then I took another 10% and I said, that needs to go towards saving up for, a big move we got coming up soon. And then I said, I got to take another 10%. So now I'm already at 30% total of taking that stuff away. And I need to put this towards something that's coming up. We have a big payment coming up on something. So by that time, I'm at 70% left of that money. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just put like the rest of it in savings because we could probably just use it. We're not even going to use that money right now. So all of a sudden, everything had a roll and everything went to a place. But I love that because now everything's on plan. Like everything's according to the mission. And I didn't feel like I lost any money. In fact, I felt like I gained money, more money than that was paid to me. And that was a really, really cool aspect of it because in the idea of constraints that Mike Michalowitz talks about in the book here, when you give yourself those constraints, you get more creative and innovative with what you do with your money. Had I not done what I did yesterday, I probably wouldn't have done anything but just spent the money on stupid useless things that I don't need. And when it's just sitting there, I get tempted to buy it, or I say, oh, I'm good. I can just like go through my budget and say, yeah, I can eat out today, tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. But I don't need to do that right now. In fact, I got plenty of food here in the fridge and in the cupboard. But yeah, I love that. I think the constraints, the probability of using your money wisely with constraints is a lot greater than wasting it on stuff that you wouldn't necessarily need, and you wonder where that money went. Just an idea.
Yeah, I love that. And, I'm diabetic. When I first was diagnosed, I sat down with a nutritionist. And one of the strategies that she told me was when you go to the restaurant and you order your food, ask them to give you half of the serving on your plate and put the other half in your to-go basket or to-go box. And in doing that, when you're eating, you tend to be full when you finish what's on your plate. We were all taught that as kids, finish what's on your plate. And when we finish that, we feel full. So if we get a half serving and we eat it, we feel satisfied. If we get a full serving, we're going to eat the whole thing and be overly satisfied sometimes. So the same thing that Mike Michalowicz is talking about in there, if we automatically separate our accounts, and he gives you a great banking system for that. But when you get your check coming in, you deposit it in the bank and it automatically puts your 1% for profit, it puts your tax account, it puts your operating expenses account, and then you see what you have left over. That's yours to spend. When you see a single big number in your accounts, that's what you have to spend, even though you may not. As I realized doing my taxes this past year that I didn't account for all the 1099 I was getting, and no tax was taken out. And, I could have easily spent if I had taken out first and would not have noticed the difference. But whatever we have left to spend, like John said, is what we have to spend. If we separate it out first, we're still going to have what we really have to spend instead of being distracted by that big number. And I think it's like he says throughout this book, profit first is not an accounting strategy, it's a mindset shift. And the more we get that mindset shift of what we really have to use, the better off our finances are. We're less likely to be distracted by those shiny objects and that giant Pikachu statue I had to talk John out of buying when he got his last check. So, but yeah, it's these constraints you put on yourself give you the freedom to use what you actually have. And I think that's just one of the core principles in this book.
Yeah, top of mind awareness comes to my mind because we had a meeting before this, and we were talking about presence and being on people's minds and sending out messages and engaging people in comments on social media and LinkedIn and different platforms. And it's interesting that when it's on the top of our mind, we think about it more. I know, crazy, mind blown. When it's on top of our mind, we think about it more. When it's not, we don't think about it at all until those random occasions, sometime during the year, that our mind just pops up and says, oh, I totally forgot about that. That's what Mike's talking about, is put away the money, put it in a different bank, put it in a different account, which you can't see it, in which once every quarter or something where you get that reminder of distribute profits or look at your profit account or whatever, then you look in there and be like, oh, wow, we actually have a lot of money in here. And it's not that it's not yours, because it is yours. It's just you put it somewhere where you don't touch it. And I think when it comes down to it, sometimes we are our worst enemies. So when it comes to finances, sometimes we just, if we see it there, we tend to spend it unless we're like disciplined with our finances. So if it's out of sight, out of mind, what a great way for us to not be our own enemy at that point, and to be able to spend spend what we have in front of us, but still have cash in reserves and profit for us to play with after.
Yeah, it's like paying yourself for being a good person, right? Or doing the right thing instead of facing the consequences, as Ian was talking about as well. Like there really truly are awesome things. And I see it now that I've heard what both of you've had to say. I'm actually seeing this principle a lot clearer. There's profit, which defined in this case is, the money set aside from the excess, not the minimum, not the minimum intake. Like you've already got to assume the expenses of the business that have already been incurred. So there's like a negative amount to the profit you receive, but there's profit, and then there's your profit's profit. Okay, don't get confused here. Your profit's profit is the what you get to do with the amount or percentage of the overall profit. So there's the excess, the fluidity, the ability to profit from the profit, which is expendability. I think I confused everyone. So I'm going to go with a different story here. I'm going to say there was this really cool speaker that came to my college when I was attending, and he was the lead engineer and designer of the memorial that was installed where the two towers in Manhattan, when they fell on 9/11. And he told the story about how when the towers fell, the infrastructure of the soil, the ground was completely dug up, rotted. It created so many challenges. And where they wanted to erect like a statue or some sort of thing that would really like wow the world and memorialize this tragedy, they were faced with so many different things. The constraints of what the city said was available and allowed based on digging rights and what you're able to do when it comes to deconstruction of a tragedy such as that. And there were so many things and hoops and red tapes and things they had to go through. But the thing was, is once they laid out all the rules and regulations and constraints in a line, they realized where they could play, what ideas they could come up with. And once those were outlined, they gave them constraints. Their productivity and creativity was through the roof. And I've been to New York City and I've seen the end result of the memorial in which they've created to memorialize that tragedy. And I got to tell you, it's one of the most breathtaking experiences, not just memorials or things to visit, but it's literally jaw-dropping. You feel it, you see it, you can like experience it, and it's phenomenal, like absolutely just incredible. And they talked about how that constraint was like the creation of a diamond. It really squeezed them tight, but yet that little room for atom activity allowed them to really come up with some really great solutions. Because look at a white canvas or a blank wall, right? And you have all the creativity in the world. You'll probably spend most of your time going through the paralysis of analysis, and you'll probably come up with something, but it'll take you a lot longer and it'll be a lot more stressful. But when there are more constraints, you have guidelines. And so in the profit first mentality, you really do have things working for you. And it's like paying yourself and allowing yourself to have freedoms based on what you earn and what you create. So, constraints truly do breed creativity, but profit first forces that exponential innovation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. And these rules and regulations and say, oh, it's just, it takes away all my freedom. And it's really the wrong mindset. The old analogy is if you're flying a kite and the kite can only go as high as the end of the string, but if you cut that string to let the kite fly up and soar, the kite immediately drops to the ground once that string is cut. So the string is not holding the kite back. The string is what allows the kite to be up there. And putting those ideas in our mind that these constraints are what are going to allow me to fly. They're going to allow me to move ahead. And I've got a client that I've worked with who started a business with a big chunk of money, and he was kind of excited with all the great things he could do with it. Then after a little bit, he started to realize that, this big chunk of money is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. But it's still a chunk of money. And after actually reading this book, I'm talking to him about some of these principles and said, if you took all of your operating expenses, figure out what it's going to be and put that in one account. And you budget for your marketing materials, which has been a big expense for him. And you put that in there. Now, instead of this big chunk that you're seeing going up and down and is just scary, say, I've got, my taxes are taken care of. My rent expenses, my fixed expenses are taken care of. Here's my marketing budget. This is what I have to use. Great. Here's my profit section. Maybe here's my slush fund. And now that he's separated it out, he's organized it, he has the freedom in that marketing budget to spend whatever's in there for his marketing without having to worry, because that's there. It's for marketing. It opens it up. So rather than constraining it and locking you in, it actually gives you the freedom to use each of these accounts for whatever you want to, that they're there for. And don't go all wild, but within that marketing account, he can do whatever he wants marketing wise with all that money. And it brings out so much freedom and so much less stress and worry, that I'm loving just the concept of this and how it is really giving me freedom by constraining various aspects in different areas, to not have to be so afraid of all those ups and downs.
It makes me think of, I love this principle because it makes me think of, like, as I'm running my business, if I have $10,000 to do expenses, overhead, pay employees and such, then there's $10,000 to do that. But if I take that and let's say take 1% out for profit, which is what, 10,000, so $100, put $100 away. Is that right? Seems right. Put $100 away in profit. Then I have the other amount. Then if someone were, then I have a 9,900. Then if someone were to come to me and says, I have X, Y, and Z opportunity for you, and what I need is $10,000 up front in order to do this. Now you're looking at your budget and think, well, I don't have 10,000. I have 9,900. So two things can happen. One, you can negotiate the price and knock it down, or you simply say, sorry, don't have the money for it, to then move forward. And it's so interesting because of this. When we have a smaller plate, when we have a smaller amount that we deal with, and we already know that we are paying ourselves first, that's already covered, that profit, we're making it, that we're getting cash in, that is there to actually make a business profitable. Which, think about like all the business owners that have been in business 5 years or under. How many can say that they are in profit? Very, very little. So I love it because being in profit from day one, exceptional. When you're dealing with a smaller expense and have that covered, then you make different decisions, because you might not have the 10K to be able to spend. And so you don't take the opportunity or thing that may or may not be good for you simply because you don't have the money for it. And so when you work with something smaller, you live within your means in the area you want to, as well as paying yourself first and still having the money for yourself, rather than what most people do, which is they get revenue in, They pay their expenses and the opportunities, and then whatever is leftovers is profit. We don't want to live in a leftovers business. We want to actually make this a thriving one, which is you take your revenue, take out the profit first, and then expenses falls into all the leftovers that are left. Leave expenses to the leftovers, not the profit.
Boom. I love that. Yeah, I love that a lot. I was just trying to think of, because I think about our listeners, right? And I want to know like their greatest takeaways. And I think what Willie just said really sums up what we're trying to teach and prove today as a result of like the applications, and we can share stories and so forth. But I think that was brilliant. And I kind of want to shift conversation a little bit just to lighten up the mood of profit conversation.
The gavel, boom, boom.
Right. Because I think we beat the horse to shreds now, and I think that's good, because again, I want our listeners to have huge takeaways, and I think that it's important for them to see it. So I just wanted to talk about like how let's go off of the quote from the beginning of today's episode. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, which totally highlights what you just said, Willie, and cash is reality. And I had cash sitting around the other day, and I needed to go pay for a recreational volleyball fee to start another season. And cash was just lying around. And literally, I knew I had some cash, so I just grabbed the cash and I went over and I used that to pay the league fees. For me, that was basically like being let into the league for free, because cash was literally like my reality of being able to say like, hey, like this is just a trade of services. Like if I give you this, now I can go play. Great. Awesome. Cash was just lying around, and it did have a value, but the value wasn't nearly as great as me being able to go and play volleyball for another month or two. Right. So it was kind of interesting to me. It was like when I already set aside my money, cash was lying around, because that was the foam. That was the foam on the top of my drink. Like the drink is the benefit, and I sectioned that apart. But the foam was like the excess that I could have used for just some pure enjoyment. And that was something that I realized, like, that was really easy to do. And if I continue to do that with every bit of my revenue, and I turn my profits over into purpose-driven mission, and then the excess is what I get to play around with, man, my life is completely different, because I literally just like throw cash at things. And I also get to throw cash at like things that are important to me, not just volleyball, but like I had a few extra bucks of change, and guess who that went to? The homeless person on the street, or the charity that I walked by and thought, you know what, I should donate local, and stuff like that. So it just felt good to be able to do stuff that I really want to do, but I've given myself that angle. So I felt good about that. And I just wanted to like make the mental note and share it with the audience that when you do it once, it feels good. When you do it twice, it feels even better. And the repetition of doing it, it becomes such a solid habit that you'll forget that it was a disciplined habit, and you'll just start living a completely different lifestyle and a different life, because you've changed the way you view profits. And I think that's why the profit first method is it's pretty powerful. And I didn't realize how powerful it could be until I really dove into the numbers that these two were sharing. And then the application of it was just transformational. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, the whole cash thing is there. And as you were talking, just made me think, if I have $100 to spend on all of my expenses for the week, it's stressful. If I have $1 to spend on anything I want, it's freedom. It's just kind of funny how that works with it. But yeah, having that freedom and really the mindset of cash is so crucial to have. I find that if I have like a $20 bill in my wallet, it'll stay there for quite a while. But once I break it into tens, they have less value. So I spend those a lot more freely. And ones, I get paper cuts trying to keep those ones to stay inside my wallet, because they're flying out so fast. Because I just don't see the value of those pieces of paper that are the same size and the same color. But that idea of putting the cash, this is mine to have. He's talked about the old envelope system that a lot of people use. Our parents may have used that one, where you cash your paycheck, you have an envelope that says rent, an envelope that says groceries, an envelope that says gas, and you go to the grocery store with just that envelope. And yes, you can only spend that much, but you can spend all of that money to do it, and that freedom of that cash. And I think I definitely lose that with credit cards now. They're so easy, so convenient, that I don't even know how much I spend. Somewhat figuratively, a little bit literally, but I have to go back and check on it. But you don't realize how fast it goes. But when you get into that cash mentality, it's real, it's empowering. You feel rich if you've got some cash on you. I've got a friend who used to have he'd carry around 50 cents in pennies in his pocket. And people would say, "Oh, got any money?" He'd just shake his pocket. "Yep, I got lots." And I don't know why he walked around with 50 cents a penny. It probably gave him a limp, but made him stronger with the weight. But yeah, cash is king for a lot of reasons. And in our mindset, it really can make a difference for it.
I love that. It also, that ties into a story that came to my mind of, there's this individual who, and it relates to the revenue, is Vanity. Individual who they've never had a lot of money in their bank account. And so what this individual did was that he took out a loan of $1,000 just so that he could see that he had $1,000 in his bank account. And I'm thinking, that's not good, because then you got to pay interest and you got to do all that. And so it's interesting that when we see the small picture of the money coming in, how vain it can be, which vanity in the simplest form is pride in an achievement or an accomplishment of something. Another example is Mark Cuban, one of the sharks on Shark Tank and owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He told this story of a girl came on Shark Tank, had an awesome business. They got in partnership together, and then Mark helped set everything up, left her for a month to do the business because she was over it. Came back, looked at the sheets, and realized that over the month that every single sale that they made, they were losing money. And he was so confused by it, because when he left, everything was set up to where there would be revenue and profit, and where it would just be upscaling. And they should have had hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they didn't. And every month they were losing tens of thousands of dollars. So he goes back to her and says, "What the heck is going on?" And she says, "Well, I don't know. Like, we're getting so much money coming in. There's so many orders. It's awesome." And he says, "No, look at the sheets," and realize they're losing money. What happened was, after they set it up and Mark left, she thought it would be great for all of her followers and stuff to give them free shipping. So the business was paying for the shipping, which then brought the cost and expense over the threshold of the revenue and profit. So something that was being sold for $15, now every time they made it, maybe they'd make it for $13 or $14, but then with shipping, it would be like $18. So they were losing $3 every single time they had to ship something out. And it just goes to show that you got to look at the big picture of everything going on, and that if you just look at the revenue, look at the money coming in, just to impress, just to really do it for appearances, you might be missing the bullet.
Willie with the truth bombs today. I love it. I love that story too. Just a great application of all this. So I'll kind of just wrap up my thoughts today, and just want to say thank you. Like, my eyes truly in this conversation and discussion have been actively influenced by your thoughts, both you and Ian. And I just want to say thank you. And as I kind of reflect on just the ability that we have as humans to enjoy life at a whole nother degree, Ian really nailed that home for me. And that's, you really you feel different when you behave different with your profits and with your excess. And so with cash being the true and ultimate reality, I highly recommend you take advantage of the profit first mentality. Look at your expense, look at your just money, right? Like I'm learning this more and more and more, and not to become obsessed about it, but to know it enough and know it well enough that it will change your life and your outcome by just getting a handle on your money. Don't let your money and income and revenue and profits happen to you. Make sure that you happen to know what you're doing with them, and then that plan will move forward and give you so much more freedom. And that's what everyone wants, right? Everyone wants financial freedom, and they don't really define what that really means. And financial freedom doesn't mean rich beyond measure. It means a total value and measurement of exactly what you want, need, and desire. And that truly sums it up for me. And so I'm grateful for this conversation, super grateful for the book, and highly recommend you go and give it a read and dive into these concepts and apply it in your life, your business, especially you solopreneurs out there. This is all for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm sure big businesses can use this, but I really see this as the small business, the solopreneur way of doing things. I see it as something that's changing how I'm doing things now. And I'm excited as I move forward with this, because, as he points out at the beginning of the book, one of the worst things you can do is log into your bank account and see how much money is there. That'll destroy a business if you're doing that. Even your normal GAAP principles of accounting, if you don't really manage everything there. And this profit first is just a simplified way of doing it. And I'll finish with an old joke that sums up how many people do their business, which is, what do you mean I'm out of money? I still have checks left. And too often we think that, there's money in the account, so I'm doing good. And this, as complicated as the accounts are, it simplifies so much. So I'm excited to see how it affects my business.
Yeah, I think each of us are going to take something from today and go on. And we share that with you, champions, as well. Take something from today. Don't just listen to be here. Don't just sit and attend, but actually take something that you've learned and apply it, because that's what all this is about. It's about taking the best principles to help you make your best life. And the way to do that is through the action that you take. So go out and take that action. And with that being said, that wraps up this episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in it, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, as well as you can find us on our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll have the link to our podcast, link to our socials, and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, champions, continue to be the best version of yourself. Continue to be the awesome champions as you are. And always remember that revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity, and cash, it's reality. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.